This is TWiT.
And I am excited to be joined by the wonderful Patrick Holland of CNET. Welcome back to the show, Patrick.
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's great to see you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here because I have to tell you, Leo Laporte and I watched the Made by Google event live and sort of provided some commentary for our Discord group, our Club TWiT members. And I came away feeling like every time there was a little bit of information given to me, it was so quickly followed by some sort of joke or other thing that it all just kind of fell out of my head immediately. So I really don't know what Google even announced yesterday. So I'm glad you're here to tell me what they announced.
Did you call it an event? Because I kind of felt like it was more like an infomercial.
Yeah, was it not? Yeah, I actually, before we even get into the tech, I would love to hear your thoughts. I mean, I'm sure you've attended or watched many a tech event and, product announcement. And I just would love to hear, what you thought about this way of doing things and how many different celebrities there were. Just, your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple parts to this. Like one, there's the tech journalist side, which, we want these events are to launch a device or to explain to us a little behind the scenes. Google, like many companies, will pre-brief journalists. So a lot of us got pre-briefed about all the products before the event. And therefore we have stories and videos ready to go. Another from behind the scenes is our embargo was an hour before the event. So all of our articles dropped. We actually do a live show at CNET. So for the first time ever, we got to talk about the products and what they were versus like, I think there's a rumored Pixel Watch or whatever, right? So there's that part of it. As Patrick, the former filmmaker and theater director, there's the entertainment side of the event. So having someone like Jimmy Fallon host it was initially a lot of fun, I thought. Like he brought a lot of energy and humor to it, but it kind of felt like it maybe washed out some of the info that the people watching that event would have gotten if they hadn't read like our stories or videos about the phones and stuff like that. And then about a third way through, it kind of turned into an infomercial, which was a little charming, but also a little annoying because there were just so many things being thrown our way. And I was just waiting for like the, ShamWow kind of style, like, how much would you pay for a Pixel phone? $1,200, $1,300? What if I told you could get it for $1,000, right? It's like, it was kind of wild. So it's wild seeing the reaction. You're talking about your Discord, just in general on social media. Some people absolutely hated this style. Some people loved it. And I'm kind of somewhere in between. I think, it's probably a lot less dry than some other tech events I've attended. But at the same time, I have to respect that it was live. They did it live. And, I'm a fan of Lando Norris. It was so cool seeing him. And of course, I'm in San Francisco, so big Steph Curry fan.
Yes. I'm not a huge Jimmy Fallon fan per se, but afterward, I found myself in looking back, thinking about the difficulty that he had as someone who is trying to bring that energy, bring those beats, bring those moments without a deep knowledge, right, of the technology. And that makes it difficult to know, how much needs to get put out into the air before I should jump in with a little thing, because I've been hired to be here to jump in with a little thing now and then. And I think that's very difficult. In the end, Google did announce stuff. And so I love to hear what's going on in the world of Pixel 10, because that's a big number. Number 10, that's big, right?
And this segueing a little bit, I think that also is kind of tied why they maybe wanted to have like a celebrity there, a host or an MC, and having those celebrity guests was the fact that this is the 10th Pixel phone. And speaking of that, so we have the Pixel 10, the Pixel 10 Pro, and its bigger brother, the Pixel 10 Pro XL, as well as the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. A lot of how many times did this say Pixel 10, right? If this was a drinking game, I'm sorry, you're probably drunk.
Yeah, you're gone.
But I would say for the Pixel 10, just tying it back a little bit to that 10th anniversary, it actually comes in the indigo color that the original phone was available in, that very saturated blue color. But yeah, all these phones bring some new things and some different way of looking at the Google lineup as well. Yeah,
so let's start with the Pixel 10. and kind of go from there. Tell us about price changes, if there are any, about any improvements, because I think that one of the regular takeaways that I was seeing afterward was almost a skepticism that the reason it was so celebrity packed was not because it was a moment of recognizing, the anniversary, so to speak, of the Pixel, but instead was a distraction to the fact that there weren't that many new things to talk about. So would you argue against that first and foremost, or perhaps agree? Like, what's your take on that in terms of, were there big updates for the Pixel 10, and what were they? If what it was.
I think, it's interesting because as tech journalists, we want that hardware. We want that hardware change, and none of these phones have a big change. Arguably, we'll talk about the Fold, but there's a significant change there that no other foldable has, and that's impressive. But it's software. The camera hardware is the same on the Pro models, but it's the software, is that ISP on that Tensor G5 chip that is bringing you new features, bringing you better photos, bringing you like 50 megapixel images. I got to go down to Google headquarters. Abrar Alhidi, another a popular guest on the show, who works with me, we got to go down to Google headquarters and do a 2-hour photo walk with those devices. So,
nice.
And all of it was just about the software. But I think when you get to like something like the Pixel 10, there are some subtle things going on there, and maybe it is a bit of a distraction. I'm not sure on they would. I don't work at Google, but I would imagine they probably don't view it that way. But it is saying like, hey, this looks just like the phone from last year. But, and speaking of the Pixel 10, there are some changes. It has, for the first time ever, 3 rear cameras, and it gets a telephoto camera, 5x telephoto camera, for the very first time on an entry-level Pixel. Speaking of the price, same price as last year. The past 2 years, the Pixel 9 and Pixel 8, the price increased. So it's nice to see that, especially when a lot of people were concerned about tariffs affecting prices. But so I'm getting a phone with an extra camera, and then a brighter screen, a bigger battery, and then a more powerful processor. And while people are going to like dig at the GPU, which I get, I think Google's looking at like, hey, we're more concerned about AI and doing that on board. So you have the same chip in this $800 phone that you do in these $1,000 and the $1,000 Pro models and things like that. But I'll say also, like, I think what's interesting though is the Pixel 10 is changed. It used to be that like the Pixel 9 and 8 before it was kind of just a scaled down version of the Pro phone, and you're like, oh, I could save $200 and get the same cameras. I lose the telephoto, but that sounds great. This phone, actually, all the cameras on the back are new. It's actually replacing the main camera and the ultra wide with the cameras that were on the Pixel 9a that cost $500. So in a weird way, Google kind of made this more of a hybrid between a budget model and the Pro models than we've seen before. And while I like a good deal, I still think it on paper seems like a good value, but it's definitely kind of shifting people like, hey, for a couple $100 more, you can get this upgraded version with a newer processor, bigger battery, all this stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot to kind of to break apart there whenever you're trying to make the decision. So then let's talk about the Pixel 10 Pro. We put the Pro on the end. What do we get with that Pro moniker?
Yeah, and I think this is where some of that criticism we're talking about might come, where it's like, okay, the cameras are the same, the screen is the same, the body is the same, like, what am I getting? Again, I think a lot of it comes down to software, and you can't get through a phone event these days without talking about AI, and that's going to be the big stuff. So they have this AI for the cameras, and this actually goes on the regular model too, called Camera Coach, and it allows us to like use Gemini to inspire us and do things. There's we'll talk more about AI in a moment, but so that's part of it. And the other part of it is also you're getting Android 16 on there. Again, kind of leading up to that criticism, but let's talk about some hardware changes. There is hardware changes. This phone supports Qi 2.2 wireless charging, means you can hook it to a wireless charger up to 25 watts. But the more exciting thing that people want to hear is the phones have magnets in the back. And who'd have thought that would be the big technology of the year? And these magnets are called Pixel Snap, and they allow support like magnetic accessories. You can even put MagSafe accessories. Fun fact, when I go to CES, one of my favorite booths to go to is the Wireless Power Consortium, made up of hundreds of companies, including Google and Apple, who are behind this G2 standard. So to see that and see some of these fun accessories that you could put on your iPhone now, or put some iPhone accessories on your Pixel phone, I think that's pretty exciting. But again, not a huge compelling change over last year, but the price is the same, and I think that's smart as well.
So when it comes to this then, if somebody's looking to get the latest phone, going for the, let's say they had last year's Google Pixel Pro, okay, you would want to kind of follow from that to this year's Pro, or would you recommend in this case kind of waiting because in that specific instance, not much has changed? Or is this really just a matter of you'll get access to the new AI stuff that you wouldn't otherwise get?
Yeah, and I have to say I'm very bullish on recommending upgrades. And a year-over-year upgrade, I don't see that happening here unless you really want that those magnetic accessories and things like that. But you know what? You could buy a case and it does largely the same thing. It's not the same, but it's close, and it saves you hundreds of dollars. I would say this phone's probably aimed at someone upgrading from maybe something more like this. I think this is right, 6 Pro and 7 Pro. A few years ago. And I think that makes a lot more sense. Even if you're really into generative AI and onboard stuff, while it's impressive the year-over-year processing that they've done on the Tensor, I think this is a sit back. Unless you're going to get a fantastic deal on this and get some return on your old phone, there's no reason to do a year-over-year upgrade on this.
Understood. Then there's the standout, right? There's, or the stand up in this case, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It looked very thin. The camera bump was massive. What's going on with the Fold? I loved the part about how many years of folding you can do before you have to worry about the screen.
I mean, and that's a trope that's happened since 2019 when those early Galaxy Z, I don't think it was Z Fold, it's just Galaxy Fold units came out, and people had problems with the screen and the peel on top of the screen and all that stuff. That's kind of like first impressions, right? It's stuck with not only the tech journalists who've tested it, but obviously the people looking at it. So speaking of that, like you talked about years of being able to fold, probably the biggest feature on this is something that's so mundane and so boring, but kind of groundbreaking. This is the first foldable phone to have IP68 rating for water and dust resistance, meaning it can actually go to the beach with you. You can, if you were touring a salt factory, you could have this phone. You couldn't do that with the Galaxy Z Fold 7 or any other foldable phone, even like something like the Motorola Razr Ultra. All of those have a smaller or lower dust resistance. That's not really this. So this matches most flagship phones like iPhones, Pixel, all these other phones have IP68 dust resistance, and the Fold is the first one to do it. Is it exciting and thin, as sexy as the Galaxy Z Fold 7? I think that other phone probably looks better and feels more like a normal phone, but yeah, I'm not going to be able to take that to the beach, right? So I think that's part of it. I also think the Android 16 software on the Fold, especially when we get to test that, that's going to be a big deal. It was so much fun playing with that on the Fold 7. But yeah, that camera bump's there. Get a case that'll keep it from rocking. Is that extra device?
Cases, yeah. How do those cases typically have a sort of? Is it just open in the middle?
Yeah, or like it's kind of like a two-piecer. Like the first is this kind of like a frame that goes around the cover screen, but the part that goes around the back, usually they have a cutout for the, I don't know what you want to call it, a camera bar, but a camera square. And because of the thickness of the case, it helps make it less like there's a giant domino stuck to the back of your phone.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then lastly, we touched on it a little bit there. The update to provide the magnetic accessories, the Pixel Snap accessories, I thought it was interesting. I think more and more I see and now, of course, right as I'm talking about this, I'm forgetting the name of it. Pop socket. I see more and more people with pop socket accessories, and I'm not surprised to see the company, stepping into that area. Can you tell us about Google's accessory game? Is this a company that is well into making accessories for its Pixel devices, or is it more, has it in the past kind of been more about just here's the hardware, go to third parties to get your accessories?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think previous to this week, it was like their cases were nothing special, but they were just fine. They're like silicone cases, and they help the camera bar be a little less protruding and things like that. But I think, yeah, Google does have its own accessories. They're branding them called Pixel Snap, which is kind of cute. And the one that you referred to, there's a thing called the Pixel Snap Ring Stand. And when it's on the back of the phone, it's basically like Google's version of a pop socket, but you're using what almost looks like a binder clip, a binder ring to hold your fingers in. But then that binder ring pulls back and it acts like a stand, so you could use it for watching a video or for filming yourself and things like that. But I think the big deal is that there's already a ton of magnetic accessories and some that are branded MagSafe that will all work on this. So it's more like bringing those things to the Google phone. It's the first major phone to do it. The only other phone that I know that has like this magnetic stuff that's not an iPhone is the HMD Skyline. And I guarantee most people don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I was going to say, but what?
Those are the guys that made the Barbie phone. So,
oh, the Barbie phone people.
The Barbie phone people. Yeah.
You enjoying this tiny taste of Tech News Weekly? I'm happy to hear it. You can check out the full show on our website, twit.tv/TNW, or you can watch it right here on YouTube. Just click the link below.